Satnam, there's been a question about personality, identity, ego, soul. What's the relation? What's the difference? How does the ego serve you in Dharma or doesn't it? How do you recognize if you're acting from ego or not? Whenever we talk about ego, actually anything we say about ego should be considered relative, and rather than an absolute reality. So please remember that with what you hear now. It's not that I'm going to tell you some ultimate or absolute truth, but perhaps what I am sharing with you may be helpful. Let's consider at the moment not too much difference, ego and personality. I have a personality, I have a style, it has its characteristics. I identify with that, in that way it becomes ego. If I do not identify with that, if I say, I am spirit, I am soul, or anything of that nature, then what is ego? So ego becomes really the persona, the personality with which that manifests in life. Soul cannot just be here naked. It needs a body, it needs a face, it has a mind to work with, and that's always going to have some kind of shape. Some shape, some color, some style, some pattern. Now, how much does that shape be influenced by my story, my history, my movies, my projections, my fears, my attachments? That makes it a personality that has its own self-defending, self-perpetuating virtual reality which will do anything to hold its own position. It will reinforce itself, it will seek reinforcement, it will try to prove its existence, it will seek more evidence and proof for its existence. So this is an entity, like a phantom, in a way, that has been created as a sum totality of patterns, stories, memories, recorded on a cellular level, biologically recorded, recorded energetically in nadis, channels within my mind and body system. And yes, even neurological pathways and things like that. The sum total of that becomes an entity in itself. And yet none of that is me. It's me temporarily, it's what I inhabit, so I reasonably say, my mind and my body, my feelings, that's just an everyday, reasonable perspective. As I develop my sensitivity to my identity as spirit, then what happens to everything else? I become aware of those patterns. I may try to oppress them because I'm unsure how to deal with them, I'm embarrassed by them, I'm uncomfortable. Or eventually, I work with it, I meditate, I clean it out, I acknowledge it, I take some distance from it. We call it non-attachment rather than detachment. So it becomes transparent, and in transparency, to me at least, and then it may become more transparent to others. So I have my style and my way, and people can laugh and joke about that, but they know that's just the costume I wear. It's not my ultimate being, it's the costume. That costume can become lighter, thinner in some way, so there's not an entity that is dominating or controlling, rather it just becomes a window which serves the transmission of a communication of me, my existence, my presence, to you and your existence and your presence. So your ego also, how much is that going to filter, interpret, judge, analyze, include, exclude whatever I present is not only filtered through my own temporary personality, which we call ego, but it's also going to be filtered in your receptivity through your patterns. So does my communication reach through? If I take away the window, there's a blank space. And in some ideological world, we might say, who needs ego? But actually it serves very well as a window, as a means, as a door of transmission. So ego is not wrong, evil, or bad, but it has complications. We can learn to make it transparent. We can learn to allow more permeability so that the real self communicates through that. And then the challenge also in my communication to you is to be aware of how much you're filtering, how are you hearing what I'm communicating, am I reaching to the authentic self or not? The ego personality is very much just the surface. I've implied that it has layers. And where are those layers? Those layers are what we would call in the subconscious, which is organic, to be very clear. In the subconscious, and we also refer to that as a negative mind. So there's a whole ocean, energetic ocean of emotionality and organic life and processes sitting right here. And it's filled with those stories and those patterns and those memories and information associated to that. As well as my fantasies, my projections, my imagination, my assumptions about you, how you're hearing me and what you expect from me. So it's pretty full. Now as I clean that out, we have energy still there, life is here, but now the personality is much more of a thin surface. It's there, but it's not a big deal. I'm not busy with it, not over-identified with it. I'm not trying to sweep it away. It's a simple, everyday yes. If you say, oh, are you the person I met last week? I recognize you. Yes, you recognize me. Same face, same hair, and so on. So that yes is just a simple recognition. Is that your house? Is that your car? Is that your telephone? No, or yes. There's identity, there's recognition, there's association. Currently speaking, yes, this is my house. But it doesn't have to carry a whole lot of stuff underneath. If tomorrow it's not my house, I can equally, lightly declare, no, it's not my house today. So that's the positive mind. It's just a simple, where's the yes? It doesn't have yes, well, maybe, and, because, I don't know, it could be, etc. Or yes doesn't have to have any implications. I can add implication. I can say yes, and therefore there's rules of the house. Now, is that my karmic version of ego with its insecurities and control mechanisms? Or is it my dharmic, which would mean my conscious self, that says it is reasonable in the context of this house is more than a house, it's an ashram, and we have a code of conduct, we have certain house rules, and we invite you to join us and respect these house rules. But I'm very clear, very conscious of what that is about, and I know that at the same time it's just a bunch of bricks. It could equally be a prison, a hospital, a parliament building, or a home for refugees. So, but today that's what it is, and these are the rules. The difference is very clear, at the same time kind of subtle. Am I imposing those rules from what kind of force, with which kind of agenda, or am I simply declaring them as the truth of today? Here lies the distinction. And we could ask, what is it serving? If I say, yes, I am the teacher, yes, this is our ashram, yes, this is the rules, then this is in service. This is to give you an opportunity to be here and go through a certain experience. If it would serve me personally and not serve you, that would be an indication that it's an entity that has no deeper value, is not in any way a vehicle in service of spirit, nor mine or yours, because spirit is one, so your spirit, mine is the same. If it is not in service of spirit, this is ego called self-serving ego. Therefore, we will often say he's an egoist, meaning he is selfish. His only interest is self, his or her interest. In Sikh Dharma, in the language of Gurumukhi, we say Gurumukh, Manmukh. Mukh, your mouth, your face, your countenance. Manmukh, I'm turning only to the man, my mind, my own image of me, my impression of me. So that actually my only interest is, do you see me? And everything is about me, and everything is to reinforce my fantasy of self. Like I believe we would call it narcissistic approach. Whereas Gurumukh, turning to the Guru. Speaking of Guru, I'm not going to say me, mine, not verbally, but also not in my interior dialogue. Rather, my conversation with myself is, and the guidance, the principles, the Guru, what do they say and how is that being honored here? Am I in alignment with that? Am I matching up to that? That brings another interesting point. As we clear out our historical personality constructed as a product of history, but still the general surface is there, which we call persona, mask. As Gurumukh, what it means is, I'm not looking to reinforce my own special, unique personality, but I identify with, let's say I identify with stories of the Gurus, stories of great saints, stories of great heroes and the archetypal myths. Then by doing that, I make myself available to embody those qualities, those virtues, we could say, those values, so that my conduct, my behavior, my communication would actually be guided by that. So my persona, in a way, becomes less personal and more impersonal. It's in service of something greater than just my little self. And that, as indicated, that would be our language of Gurumukh. What is my Guru? What is my highest aspiration of the possible human? And how do I align myself, inhale that into my being, and allow it to influence my communication to you? Ego is not to be destroyed. In the end, you become a very egoistic person saying, how proud I am of what I've done with my ego, or not. So there's no point in trying to blind ourselves with that kind of approach. Rather, let's face it, let's clean it up, let's make it transparent, recognize that I am not that, but I have that, and it's not going to go away, no matter how much I meditate and pretend I don't have an I, because there's still an I who says I don't have an I. So let's be the I, but be conscious of the shape that takes, the service that it brings, and the alignment that it has. Satnam, thank you very much.